תתארו לכם עולם יפה, פחות עצוב ממשהו ככה, ואנחנו שם הולכים עם שמש בכיסים ומעל גגות הכוכבים, והזמן עובר בלי פחד, ואני הולך לפגוש אותה בגן העדן. תתארו לכם קצת אושר, כי הוא כל כך נדיר כאן, עיר מגניבה בתוך החושך, ושנינו בשמיכה, והיא מלטפת אותי ואומרת לי מחר יקרה מה שרצית, ועם לאט השתקפויות של עצב ושמחה. תתארו לכם באמצע יום יפה, שמיים עליכם, אהבה איתכם, כן ככה זה קרה, לפתע היא אמרה, אני עוד זוכר אותה, כמו בסערה. תתארו לכם אותי נופל לתוך זרועותיה. תתארו לכם עולם פשוט, חדר ללילה, בית בגשם, ריחות עצים מלאים בתות, ושנינו שיכורים. אם ניפרד אני אמות, היא לוחשת וגועשת. תתארו לכם עוד הזדמנות לחזור פתאום לנעורים. תתארו לכם את החיים זזים אחורה וקדימה, מה שחסר שהוא מתמלא, מה שהיה פתאום ישנו, ואני מביט לתוך עיניה ונגנב בכוח פנימה. תתארו לכם אותנו מגשימים את כל החלומות. תתארו לכם באמצע יום יפה, שמיים עליכם, אהבה איתכם, כן ככה זה קרה, לפתע היא אמרה, אני עוד זוכר אותה.
Welcome, valued members of the Jewish National Fund USA community. My name is Dr. Seymour Reif, and I'm the National Chair of Jewish National Fund USA's Doctors for Israel, known as DFI. Like many of you in the medical community, I joined DFI, which requires a minimum annual gift of $1,000. In exchange, I receive benefits including travel, programs like today's, and networking with other like-minded Zionists in my profession. If you aren't already a member, please join us. Well, today we are here to learn about some of the inspiring ways in which Israel continues to lead the world in innovation. We're all here first and foremost because we love Israel. Developments like Pluristem, one of Israel's emerging scientific startups, keep our homeland at the forefront of the worlds of technology, medicine, food science, agriculture, and water management. As medical and legal professionals, we watch eagerly as thought leaders like the team at Pluristem forge ahead as they bring to market new products that help us heal and nourish and bring exciting advances to people around the globe. We watch as Pluristem, with all the recent media attention around its cultured meat product, navigates the intellectual property minefield of this lucrative emerging market. As members of JNF USA's Doctors for Israel and Lawyers for Israel, we should celebrate our impact on developments like Pluristem's, our work at the Central Arava R&D Center and Galilee Culinary Institute, along with medical centers and community resources, and so much more, would not be possible without our vision and support. Thank you. Today's program will be a moderated panel discussion with the Pluristem team, followed by Q&A. Feel free to submit your questions throughout the program via the chat function. We'll collect questions and share them with the panel during Q&A. Join me now in welcoming our moderator for the panel discussion today, Nathan Miller. Nate is the founder and president of Miller Inc., a strategic communications firm in Los Angeles, California. He served as director of speechwriting for Israel's permanent mission to the United Nations, policy director at the Homeland Security Advisory Council, and as a Goldman Fellow at the Transatlantic Institute in Brussels. He was named by OC Metro, which I believe stands for Orange County Metro, as one of Southern California's 40 most inspiring entrepreneurs under 40. And the Israeli newspaper Mariv recognized him as one of, and I quote, 10 young Jews who will change the world, unquote. I will now turn it over to Nate Miller.
Thank you so much, Seymour. I really appreciate that. And I want to thank this incredible audience for joining us today. What a group we have. We're across 2 continents in 10 time zones. So thank you for joining us. And I want to especially welcome the Pluristem team here with us in Israel, who we'll meet momentarily. You know, you just heard Dr. Reif mention some of the work of Jewish National Fund USA, and I'm here today as a supporter of that work. When I learned about JNF's work in the Arava Institute International Center for Agricultural Training, a center in the Negev which trains over 1,000 students annually in leading edge agricultural practices for use in desert environments worldwide, I was so inspired. And on the other side of Israel, on the other side of our homeland, JNF USA is getting ready to launch the Galilee Culinary Institute and its sister facility, the Beit Asher Food Technology and Innovation Center in Kiryat Shimona. It's going to provide the latest innovation in culinary arts and food safety and supply. So 2 JNF projects very relevant to today's conversation. You know, and I know that the vision that JNF brings to the world is infinite and it's very exciting. So speaking of vision, I want to introduce today's panelists. From the Pluristem team, we have Hen Franco-Yehuda, who's Pluristem's Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer, and Secretary. She manages the company's financial and corporate strategy and leads the IT, investor relations, PR, and legal departments. We have Dr. Nitzana Halevi, who serves as the Chief Medical Officer of Pluristem. She's responsible for clinical development, clinical operations, pharma, and regulatory affairs. We have Dr. Racheli Ophir, who's Pluristem's Vice President of Research and Intellectual Property. She leads research studies on the company's leading cell product candidates and oversees the regulatory process. So 3 truly extraordinary women who we are going to have the privilege of having a conversation with today. So I want to just begin with a pretty simple question. Perhaps, Ken, you can start for us. You know, for folks who aren't familiar, what is Pluristem?
Sure. First, thank you so much, Nate, for inviting us today, and thank you all for your time. So a few words about Pluristem. So we're a biotechnology company that is based in Haifa, in Israel. We were established 15 years ago, actually. And since our establishment, we have built a unique technology platform for cell expansion. We're using this platform in the field of pharmaceutical for regenerative medicine. Nitzan will elaborate more about our clinical development. But actually, during the years, we have developed product candidates that are based on placenta cells. Since most of our expertise, know-how, and intellectual property are based on our unique technology for cell expansion, we decided in the past year to use this unique technology also for other industries. And in that sense, a month ago, we announced of a landmark collaboration with Tnuva, Israel's largest food producer, to use our technology to establish cultivated food. So this is our vision, this is our goal, and we plan to enhance our technology not only for the pharmaceutical arena, but also for other industries that requires mass production of cells. And that's only a few words. So
we're excited to explore all of what you just said. You know,
we'll try.
Pluristem is really, you know, when I had the privilege of serving in the Israeli government for 3 years at the UN, I just saw how Israel is so at the leading edge of so many different technological fields, and Pluristem is really one of those remarkable examples of how Israel takes this technology and applies it to make life better for all of us and for people all around the world. And we're excited to explore more. Maybe just so the audience can hear in your own words briefly, if each of you could just, if we could go around the horn here and each of you could just share a little bit what you do at Pluristem and what your day-to-day looks like. And maybe we'll start with Dr. Halevi, please.
Yeah, hi, thank you, Nate. And thanks everyone for giving us the opportunity to speak today. As Nate said, I'm the Chief Medical Officer for Pluristem, which means basically I'm responsible every time one of our drug candidates goes into a human being. So clinical studies, compassionate care, all aspects of clinical development, from designing the study protocols to better understanding the indications that we are developing our products for, to ensuring the subjects' welfare and safety as they take part in our studies, ensuring we have the best quality data and conducting our studies with the highest integrity. So that's what I do for the company.
Thank you. Dr. Ofer, who's a triple threat. I'll just let her give us a little background. She's both a doctor and a lawyer, very interesting. If you could just give us your background.
Actually, I'm neither. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a lawyer. I have a PhD in molecular biology and I have a master's in law, in patent law. So I'm a bit of both and neither. So I come before Nitzan. So before the cells go into the human being, they need to be very well studied. What they do, what is their mechanism of action, how they interact with other cells, how they behave in animal models of the disease, in vitro studies of different aspects to check how the cells work. Of course, all the safety issues, you cannot go into a human being before you test your cell candidate product in animal studies. So we're studying the scientific aspects of the cells and what they do, and hope to be able to predict, at least in some way, what they're going to do in the clinical studies in terms of both efficacy and safety.
And
on the other hat that I have is to protect all of this, since this is a very competitive arena. And as Chen has mentioned, we have collected a lot of know-how data on how to grow the cells, how to use them, what indications to treat. This is also relevant also to the food tech and other commercial applications, and all of this is protected by huge number of patents. We have over 130 granted patents, and we are continuously protecting what we are developing. And this is also an asset of the company as well as a protector.
thank you. Ken, maybe just you could share a couple words about you have many hats at the company, but if you could just share a little bit about your role.
Indeed, many. So as a Chief Financial Officer, I'm the one that's actually responsible of bringing so far the resources for the company, but also to allocate them with the departments. I'm in charge for the investor relations. We are being supported with the capital markets and specific investors and funds that supported the company in the past years, together with other research grants that we were able to achieve during the years. Of course, I'm leading all the financial strategy, corporate law, all legal aspects of the company, and of course, commercial side, negotiations, etc.
Thank you. You know, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and a big subject question in the United States today is STEM, and how do we get our young people, particularly our young women, excited, engaged around science. I have a daughter who's 5 who's about to go into kindergarten. I think about this a lot. So I'd like to just start with something that, a little bit, a little higher level with Dr. Halevi or Dr. Ofer. Were you always interested? How did you end up in these STEM careers? Were you always excited about science? Is it something that always kind of you were drawn to?
Maybe I'll start. Yeah, I've always loved science. I was interested in how our bodies and the world work since I can remember. And when I grew up a little bit past 3 and 5, so in high school, I was a biology and chemistry major. That's always been interesting to me. Funnily enough, I never thought I'd go into medical school. My grandfather was a physician, my grandmother was a nurse, and so my father told me, don't ever go into a medical profession. But lo and behold, after my Army service, that's where I ended up going. It just seemed like the most interesting thing that I could do with my time. So.
Amazing. Dr. Ofer, do you want to add anything or?
Yeah, I grew up basically in the lab. Both my parents are PhDs, so my mother used to drag me when she didn't have a babysitter to be in the lab when she did a PhD. I actually planned to become a veterinarian doctor, but somehow I ended on the other side of doing experiments in animals. But yeah, I was always interested in science. There was no need to convince me to go there.
All right. Thank you. Dr. Halevi, Pluristem is working in the field of regenerative medicine. It's a very exciting field for those, for the many doctors on the call. I'm sure they understand it. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit, what is regenerative medicine and what is the potential that it has to change lives and to improve life?
So for the non-doctors in the audience, the focus of regenerative medicine is really about supporting our body's cells, tissues, and organs in order to restore their normal function after injury or a disease or aging, basically. For example, when we have a tissue that gets injured, like for example, muscle tissue that can be injured from, a certain accident or just aging. Regenerative medicine is focused on actually restoring function. So different maybe to other types of drug development, the focus of cell therapy or regenerative therapy is more about reestablishing normal function, not just being very targeted and focused on a specific thing that went wrong.
That's great. We already have a question that's related to another question I wanted to ask. So I love when that happens, when you read the audience's mind. So someone was asking about this sort of, the Pluristem has been working on research related to radiation exposure. So I'm wondering, Dr. Ofer, can you speak a little bit about PLX R18 and your work with the National Institute of Health and Department of Defense, and and how it's related to radiation exposure? What is this product, and how might it be useful in terms of addressing issues related to nuclear exposure?
Yeah, so actually, and I will let Nitzan afterwards update on our recent clinical developments in PLX-R18, but PLX-R18 are cells from the fetal portion of the placenta. And over the years, we found out that they greatly support regeneration of the hematopoietic system. And actually, we started working on it when the Fukushima disaster happened quite a few years ago. And we realized that these cells have the capability to support regeneration of the hematopoietic system. And we started with a few internal Israeli-based studies looking at the effect of the cells in regenerating the blood counts and bone marrow of irradiated animals. And then we interested the NIH, the NIAID actually, with this data. And they said, no, this can't be true. We want to do these studies ourselves. And they did again and again. And really, we have really amazing results there, improving survival of animals from about 30% to almost 100% survival in mitigating the effect. And then the DoD got interested and they said, we want to see what happens if we want to protect our troops before going into radiation. So what happens if we give the cells prophylactic before exposure to the radiation? And there again, we saw huge increase in survival. And these are studies done by the DoD, from about 4 or 5% survival to around 80% survival of animals. So this was of great interest until the COVID came in. So maybe we can one day go back to it when hopefully we don't need to, but there seems to be some interest in it, sadly, again these days. So yeah, it may become relevant again. And maybe it's a good day today, Nitzan, to update on what we reported on the clinical study with PLX-R18.
Thanks, Racheli. And I'm sorry, Nate, that we're kind of hijacking the discussion here.
Please.
But hopefully, maybe some of you have had a chance to see the press release that was issued earlier this morning, announcing the final results from 12 months follow-up for our phase 1 study in patients basically undergoing hematopoietic stem cell transplantation for various methodological conditions. In rare occasions, about less than 10% of these patients, while the transplant actually works well and the graft is received and not rejected, but the patients still seem to have a hard time recovering their counts. What we did was we treated these patients with 2 doses only of our product candidate, PLX-R18, the same product candidate that showed such promising results in the acute radiation syndrome that Racheli described. And we were able to actually show incredibly not only that the product was safe and well tolerated, but also that we were able to increase peripheral counts for platelets, white blood cells, and red blood cells, but additionally reduce dramatically the need for transfusions in these patients, which is a big contribution to their quality of life, not having to come in and receive transfusions, and obviously saving a great economic burden for these patients and hospitals.
That's amazing. And now that is hot off the presses, as Dr. Chalevi and Dr. Ofer just shared. That this is a press release that was out this morning from Pluristem. For those of you who are interested, you can check that out and find it on the website. Or a very, very exciting breakthrough and announcement in terms of the efficacy of this treatment. It comes down to the placenta cells. So I want to understand, maybe if we could just go a little bit deeper on the technology, Dr. Chalevi. What is so unique about the placenta? Why is the placenta such an effective mechanism to develop these different groundbreaking treatments?
I think probably Racheli is better to answer that, but I'll just say that the unique properties of the placenta, it being a tissue that's gives life. Basically, we harness that capability to provide regeneration to tissues. But Racheli is the best person to answer this.
Please, Dr. Ofer.
Yeah, you said it, but the placenta is a unique organ in the sense that this is maybe the only place in nature when 2 organisms that are not HLA matched, even if it's a foster pregnancy with no genetic relationship between the mother and the fetus, and there's no rejection of the baby. And one of the reasons for that is the unique properties of the placenta cells. They have low immunogenicity and they have very strong immunomodulatory properties. And so this is one big advantage. There are cells that are similar in some ways in different parts of the body. These are mesenchymal cells in nature, but the fact that they come from the placenta makes them unique. Other advantages is that it is, I don't want to say waste about our raw material, but it is biological waste. I mean, you don't need to harm anybody or do any procedure in order to receive it. There are no ethical concerns related to it. It's not embryonic. There's no concern in any of the religions or cultures with using the placenta. Actually, a lot of traditional use the placenta as a healing in past. So it has been known in tradition also for its healing properties.
Thank you. Fascinating. What I think is so interesting about Pluristem is it's not, it is at the leading edge of this one area, in biotech and pharma to develop these treatments that are changing lives. And then it's taking those same technological principles and applying them to other fields. So the major announcement that came out earlier this year related to Pluristem's partnership with Tenuva. For those of you who on the call who aren't familiar with Tenuva, maybe some of our friends in the States, it is really a powerhouse in Israel in the food space. And so it's a very exciting, unique partnership between a biotech company and a food company coming together to address an issue like developing cultured meat, which I'm excited we'll explore more. But before we go there, I just want to ask Ken, can you talk a little bit about the proprietary technology that Pluristem is able to harness in partnerships like this? What is so unique? How does Pluristem work with cells in such a unique way? And talk a little bit about your unique 3D system.
Sure. So we have been developing this bioreactor system, which is a three-dimensional environment for cell expansion. But the concept is actually to give the cells a natural environment that they need in order to grow in the most efficient manner. So we're using this bioreactor system, which is fully automated and controlled. We're controlling all the parameters that the cells need in order to grow. We're controlling the temperature, pH, gas, whatever the cells need in order to grow in the most efficient manner. And think about the concept of three-dimensional. Think about our body. This is the perfect bioreactor system. Once we are not controlled, then we feel that. So we need to give the cells the same environment they need in order to grow in the most efficient manner. Today, we can say that from one placenta, we can treat 20,000 patients. We have been designing this technology for mass production, a batch-to-batch consistency, and having the ability to provide an allogeneic product for the market. So we designed it for placenta cells, but during the past year, we wanted to check and see if it can be a game changer for other industries as well. And this is where we started with Tenuva and the joint venture to use this unique technology for mammalian cells, not only for placenta cells.
That's incredible. I want to now pivot quickly before I want to go more on Tenuva, but first I want to give a question for some of our doctors, our lawyers for Israel. We've been doing a lot of doctors for Israel, so we want to have some balance here. I want to ask Dr. Ofer a little bit about Pluristem's legal strategy. How this is very, very dynamic, cutting edge work. It involves new technology, harnessing cells, clinical trials. I'm wondering if you could share just a bit about the strategy to protect the company's very valuable intellectual property.
Yeah, it is indeed challenging. So we try to cover it from various aspects. First of all, the process of manufacturing the cells. Then we have devices that we have developed during our development of the manufacturing process, because nobody does exactly what we're doing. We had to develop some unique devices that are used for the process of growing the cells and for using them. So we have patents on the process, on devices that are related, and then patents on the use of the cells based on second medical use, patents based on the indications that we're going to treat. And we have patents on the cells themselves based on their unique characteristics. So we know that growing them in the bioreactor under certain defined conditions gives them specific characteristics. And as we said, these cells are living creatures. They respond to environment, so the environment of the growth also affects their properties. So knowing the exact conditions that you grow the cells and knowing what is the exact outcome of the cells you can make composition of matters patents on the cells themselves. So we try to cover each of the aspects. So we have several layers of protection. This is also what enabled us to use the process patents in order to design the deal with Tnuva, because it is based on the process and so on.
That's fascinating. That is a legal challenge if I've ever heard one. I want to go deeper. You mentioned the deal with Tnuva. I'm wondering, kind of, if you could take us sort of deeper into this partnership. What does it mean to be in partnership with Israel's largest food producer in a joint venture? Can you talk to us about, what are you thinking about with this partnership? What makes it unique? What will it do? What do you hope to achieve?
So first, it means that they're running an extensive due diligence process that took us several months. But then, they gave us the confidence that we're in the right way and we're doing the right decision. What I can say that for us, for Pluristem, we're tech guys. I mean, we know how to expand cells. We know how to do that in mass scale. We have the technology in place. This is what we are most good at, expanding cells in mass scale and accessible cost. And for Tnuva, who's been with us almost 100 years here in Israel, they are now controlling the protein alternative market here in Israel. Their market share is more than 60%. Wow. And they are the largest food producer here in Israel, actually a proven pioneer in their field, together with us, that we are a proven pioneer in our field, in the technology field. So the reason to join forces together was the fact that we can be perfect in expanding cells, and they can be major player in research and development of end user consumers and products. And also they will be the one that will commercialize the products in the Israeli market. So we decided to join forces and to establish a new venture. Tnuva were the one that actually invest and found this new venture. They were injected $7.5 million to this new venture. We're still the ones that control this venture. Pluristem holds around 84% in this new venture, but this venture actually gains access to our technology for the field of cultured meats, specifically, with a focused and seasoned team to promote this new corporation mission and vision. Also, we have the opportunity to expand the collaboration with Tnuva, also for cultured dairy and cultured fish, through other ventures, not in this venture. We see tremendous opportunity here. We understand that this is a growing market, and we definitely want to use our technology and our expertise in order to contribute to this growing industry.
So just for those in the audience who aren't as familiar with cultured meat, it's a big deal. So it's I was talking to my wife about this, and I said, in 10 years it may be that you go to a steakhouse and the meat that you get is not grown on a farm, but it's grown in a lab.
It's grown in a lab, yeah.
And
that's the concept.
And this meat could be dramatically more sustainable. When we look at climate change and we think about these things, the climate impact of particularly beef, but all animals is very high, right? I mean, it's and in my understanding from our from past conversations is that Tnuva, that Pluristem is uniquely able to produce this technology in a very sustainable way, right? Yeah. And maybe kind of, I don't know if you want to speak more to what, how quickly do we believe that, is this a matter of many years, or do we think it's a few years before this product will actually be on shelf?
I think that the fact that we're actually joining forces, both us and Tnuva, with the years of experience that each of the party has, we were able to put on the calendar aggressive projected milestones. So we expect to present technological proof of concept by the end of this year. Wow. And also to present a product during 2023. So it's challenging, but we have the best teams to make that happen. And I think that's what's unique about this joint venture. Even though it's a new one, it's actually almost 18 years old, because combining Tnuva's expertise in their field and our expertise in cell expansion, we're given a, this is something that is much more mature than any other joint venture that was established in food tech so far.
And so you heard it here first, folks. 2023 or soon after, we may have cultured meat in the stores from Tnuva and Pluristem. That's amazing. There's many Jewish audience members here. Is this product going to be kosher, Ken? What do we think in this area?
Wow. Wow, that's a great question. First, let me say that the source that we'll use for the process of this cultivated meat is super important in order to consider the kashrut of the product. So cultured meat can be produced in many ways. However, we will definitely ensure that our products with Tnuva will be kosher. Actually, last week, a position paper was written by an honorable rabbis here in Israel. One of them is Tnuva's rabbi, that actually said that it will be considered parve.
Wow.
So think about eating kosher cheeseburger. I know this topic is still under debate, and there are lots of rabbis and poskim that have different position around it. But we're now working with Tnuva team to make sure that our products and the process will be fit to give this definitely kashrut, but also will definitely want it to be parve.
That's incredible. Just think about the possibilities there. It's going to be
amazing.
A revolution in kosher cooking. There's a question from the audience that I'm wondering if we could just, it says, is the cultured meat analog technology exclusive to Pluristem, or are there other companies which have developed the same? So I think maybe Ken, if you could speak to, why we have why Pluristem has a unique angle on the technology.
So the technology that we're using, specifically the bioreactor technology, is ours. I mean, with respect to intellectual property, we have all the patents and are protected, as Halim mentioned earlier. And this joint venture will receive exclusive licensing right to use this technology in the field of cultured meat. There are other companies that do lab-grown meat with other technologies, but this is a unique technology for us. They can do, for example, we're using bioreactors. Other companies can do suspension to grow the cells. But what I can say that our technology is the most efficient one, and we have years of experience in working with this technology, though in the placenta cells, but the most we're testing it, we see that we can duplicate it also to mammalian cells.
So the efficiency, I guess, is really important when you're thinking about manufacturing at mass scale. Which,
definitely.
It's one thing to grow one steak in a lab, but when you want to grow many steaks in a lab, to expand it out, that efficiency, I think, really matters a lot. So that's fascinating.
In efficiency, but also scale, because here when we are using this placenta cells for product candidates for the pharmaceutical arena, we're talking about hundreds of millions of cells, and here we're talking about kilos and hundreds of tons of meat cells each and every day. So that's other scale. So you have to be scalable, and of course you have to be efficient so you can present an accessible product that can serve in every household around the globe.
Thank you. I want to see if we can zoom a second, because I do feel that this collaboration, and by the way, Israel is really a leader in so many things in this area of cultured meat and alternative proteins, and it feels like it's a really only an Israel kind of story, which is amazing. I want for just for a moment, I want to have a little bit of Zionist pride and talk about that Israel has been spoken about often as the startup nation. It punches above its weight in so many arenas, in business and technology and science. In culture now, I don't have a friend who hasn't watched Fauda in the United States, which is an amazing thing. But in this area, in life sciences, Dr. Halevi, I wonder if you could speak to why is Israel such a leader in the field of life science in particular? What do you think are some of the ingredients that has driven companies like Pluristem and allowing this tiny country of 7 million people to really be such a global superpower in this arena?
That's a great question. I think in general, it's the culture, right? Israel has a strong culture of collaboration across our great academic institutes like the Weizmann Institute, the Hebrew University, Ben Gurion, or the Technion, which is around the corner from us in Haifa. Strong industry and very entrepreneurial thinking leaders who take these fantastic ideas coming out of our academic institutes and really bring them very quickly into the industrial space and technology space. And then the support of the country itself. The spend on research and development in Israel is huge, bigger than many other countries in Europe. And I think that's recently been recognized by external investors as well. And so some of the largest companies in life sciences have started investing in Israel and opening up, huge R&D centers here to kind of leverage that culture of open discussion and collaboration between academic leaders and industry leaders that really fosters success across various projects and industries, which are all in the biological, technological space.
So speaking of culture, I want to go back to Pluristem. Many of us were very concerned last May when we saw the conflict break out in Gaza, and also when we saw the internal riots that were happening in Israel, where there was fighting going back and forth between the Jewish and Arab communities. Pluristem really stood out, had a remarkable moment in the midst of that. Pluristem is based in Haifa. We know that there's Arab leaders who are senior in the company. It's a Jewish and Arab company. And your CEO, Yaki, and I penned a letter. I just want to read this. There was a letter that went viral in the midst of the last conflict. And when we saw the internal conflict in Israel, he said about the folks, the Jewish and Arab employees of Pluristem, he said, "We need to talk kindly to each other and say that the brotherhood we have built is not subject to negotiation. We are here together for each other." That was very powerful. It got a lot of media coverage here in the United States and in Israel. And I think it's so interesting, the culture of diversity that Pluristem has built. And it really sets a model for companies, not just in Israel, but here in the United States as well. So Dr. Ofer, I'm wondering if you could just speak to what that means. What is the culture of diversity that you see at Pluristem, and how does that manifest?
I think Pluristem is mini Israel. We have in all levels of the company, all of the religions. We have Christians and Muslims and Druze and Jews, of course, and they are friends. We're working together. And I think we were really angry that somebody came from outside and told us, go be enemies. We work so well together. There's no conflict within the company. And this is Israel. This is Pluristem. This is Israel. This is Haifa. And we're very proud of it. We celebrate the holidays of all the religions, and we're working together, and it's really something that is important to us. And we were very proud of Pluristem to stand out, and I think it reflects what the people, not only within Pluristem, but what a lot of people in Israel feel. Don't let the leaders make us fight. We get along fine, and please let us live together. And I think Pluristem is a great example for that.
And I just want to point out, speaking of diversity, it's not a coincidence that there's 3 women on this panel from Pluristem. 30% of the leadership of the company is women in a STEM company, and many of, and as you can see here, the most senior. Many of the most senior positions are filled by women, and that's a remarkable thing, and I think an example also for us in the U.S. Ken, I want to come back to you and maybe go look at a little bit at the Israeli ecosystem for a second. You've had an interesting career working, in Israeli business as it's really as the startup nation has heated up and blown up. We've seen so many. Israel leads the world per capita in the number of unicorn companies that have come. You know, in terms of companies that are valued at more than 1 billion. You know, in terms of its population, it's you know, dramatically overrepresented. So I'm wondering, what do you think it is? What is it about the culture that is a hotspot for entrepreneurs and entrepreneurialism?
I think mostly that Israel invests in education and innovation. And this is why we have great minds here. We have the Technion, we have the Weizmann Institute. I mean, we're here, though we're a small, tiny company and country, still we are considered as a startup nation, and you mentioned earlier, I mean, the country actually just set a record in 2021 with the number of unicorns, and we see it. You mentioned earlier about the food tech companies here in Israel. We were the pioneer in that field. Other companies, not Pluristem, but other companies, developed tremendous things here. And I think it's the fact that we're indeed invest in innovation, in growth, and education.
I want to close with a big picture question for each of you, which is, you know, what inspires you about the future of Pluristem? We actually had a question from the audience that said, you know, how will Pluristem affect people in their daily lives? So I'm wondering if one of you can capture that, but I would like to just ask each of you, you know, you're all very accomplished leaders. You've chosen to invest your professional life in this company, in this cause. What about the company inspires you, and what are you inspired about the future? Maybe we'll go in reverse order. We'll start with Dr. Halevi.
Yeah, so for me personally, it's the opportunity to develop new therapies focused on the area, obviously, of regenerative medicine and cell therapy, as we discussed, that would really change people's lives. So if we're talking about patients who suffer from hip fracture, a very common occurrence, and we can help them heal quicker and regain function faster, that to me is a huge impact. If we can help patients after a bone marrow transplant recover quicker and have better quality of life, that to me is what's exciting. And I think our products are unique. Cell therapies in general, but specifically our cells are unique in the way that they really respond to the signals that they receive in the body. So it's like they're speaking the body's language. They are targeting themselves to address whatever need that they feel the body is signaling. So to me, that's the most exciting thing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this unfold for us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Ofer.
After what Nitzan said, yeah. Well, we make cells, and I think this is what we know how to do. And I think it can affect so many aspects. Of course, in the pharmaceutical world, yes, we are making medications which we hope will make people's health better. If we're making these cells into meat, then I'm helping produce a better world for my children, hopefully for myself as well. So I think we're covering, and we talked about regeneration before, so I think we're touching different aspects of regeneration here, healing people, maybe anti-aging in the future, and maybe regenerating the universe by making something that is sustainable. So, but this is the high level, yeah. But
Amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Hannah, I'm going to give you the final word. What is inspiring about the future of Pluristem? What is the opportunity you see? Why are you investing so much of your professional life here in this company?
Wow, I see so many. Really. And as said before, Pluristem promotes sustainability and well-being, and the fact that we are holding this unique technology platform at the fact that every live organ is actually based with cells. So we can actually take cells and expand them in our technology. We can definitely touch the lives of every one of us, from food to health. And I see so many other opportunities. For example, agtech. I mean, take some plant and instead of using agriculture, take the cells from the plant and expand them in a lab. I see so many opportunities, and this is what actually inspires me, because I see one platform and I see around it so many opportunities. And I know we can do that. This is another thing that really inspires me. I know we can definitely be inspiring leader in that field, and we can definitely change the world and change the day-to-day life with this unique technology. And that's what inspires me the most.
Thank you so much. Amazing. Three incredible leaders that we're so privileged to have today, and to hear about this incredible company that's just making, we all have a little piece of pride in Pluristem as you know, as supporters of Israel from the diaspora. And I think it's an incredible story. And I know everybody on this call will be watching with pride in your success, you know, in the months and years to come. I just want to close with before we pass it back to JNF, I just want to say, you know, share a little bit why I support JNF and why I think it's so important. You know, its work in agriculture, healthcare, housing, fire, rescue, and so much more would not be possible without the support of folks here in the United States, yours and mine, and your annual gift for your membership in Doctors for Israel or Lawyers for Israel is what makes JNF's USA's visionary programs possible. This is what really makes it done. So I would just encourage everybody on the call to make a stretch gift to support our family in Israel via JNF USA. Thank you so much. And also just a quick note, Charity Navigator just re-awarded its coveted 4-star perfect rating to Jewish National Fund USA, which means the organization is effective and efficient in stewarding our investments in them. With that, I want to close. I want to pass it back to Rob Gantz, who will give us some closing remarks, and just again thank our wonderful panel here, and thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nate, and to all of our Pluristem panelists for sharing these exciting Israeli developments with us. My name is Rob Gantz, and I'm the National Chair of Jewish National Fund USA's Lawyers for Israel, otherwise known as LFI. Like Doctors for Israel, LFI is a membership society of people from all walks of the legal profession who support JNF USA's work in Israel. Each of us has made at least $1,000 annual in membership gift to LFI, and in return, we receive benefits, travel, programming, and networking, including a new user-friendly national referral network. It's a win-win for all lawyers and supporters of Israel. Thank you for joining us today. For further opportunities, please visit www.jnf.org. Have a good day.